So this webinar is about CFA program, and actually it will be divided into two parts. The first part, I'm going to give you introduction to CFA program. I'm Krzysztof Jajuga. I'm president of CFA Society Poland. I'm also academic. And the second part, we have very distinguished guests, and we will have panel. The panel will be about CFA charter. What are the benefits of this charter, which is considered to be as a number one financial designation, professional designation in the whole world. But that is going to come in the second part. I will start with the presentation very soon. I would like to encourage you to ask questions on the chat section. There is chat section in the system, and then so you will ask the questions, and hopefully at the very end of my presentation we will still have some time for Q&A session. So I'm going to look at these questions, and those that can be answered immediately, that we have enough time, but we still are registering these questions, so we can possibly send the answers after this webinar. So again, welcome to the presentation. So I'm going to start the presentation in a moment, and this will be about CFA program. So let's start it. Okay, so again, this is CFA, Chartered Financial Analyst. I have to start with the CFA Institute, because CFA Institute is the organization that decided to go on with this program, CFA program. Actually, the program is very old. It started basically in 1963. At this time, the organization that launched this program was not called CFA Institute, but it turns out in around the year 2005 that CFA became so highly recognized brand that also organization changed the name to CFA Institute. 3 letters. What do these letters stand for? Chartered. This means that those who have this charter, they achieve certain standard of professional qualifications, and then of course they acquire membership of the particular professional body. In particular, of course, there are CFA societies that gather all the people. F stands for financial. So this is about finance, and this is about all these different things, very much advanced in finance, including investment. Of course, this is about financial instruments, this is about derivatives, this is about making decisions in finance. So that's F, what stands for. And finally, it's analyst. Analyst, this is the person who analyzes data, looks at information, asks questions, draws conclusions, and makes decisions also. So analyst, this is the person who has a very deep knowledge and can distinguish facts from opinions, and can look at very important facts about companies, about markets, about particular instruments. This is profession, CFA's profession. So it requires special training and skills. So those of you who are going for this program, hopefully very, very soon, I believe that there may be also people in the audience who have this charter. You know that the special training is required, and you get special skills. They are not being acquired in other programs. Of course, this is very high level of education. There is even a statement that those people who would like to get very high level of education, they should not go to MBA in finance. They would rather go to CFA, because this is very specialized for finance. MBA is maybe more general. There is code of conduct, very important, ethical issues. I'm going to go to this in a moment. And then, of course, people trust those professionally. So you owe, as a charter holder, fiduciary duties to others, for example, to households, to beneficiaries of pension fund, etc., etc. This is the mission of CFA Institute. Of course, leading investment profession by promoting, and there are 3 things: ethics, education, and professional excellence. And what is also important, last maybe more than a dozen years, the statement is being very much promoted for the ultimate benefit of society. So the group of financial analysts is not for this group, but it's for the benefit of whole society. This is non-for-profit or association. Now we have in this association about 170,000 members. There are 160 local societies. There are 3 programs, including the flagship program, which is CFA program, but I'm going to mention also the other 2 very briefly. And then, since this is very much oriented towards ethics, there is codes and standards, which includes many other issues, including, for example, global investment performance standards, and also asset manager code of conduct. So this is equation. You have educated, ethical investment professionals. You have financial markets that reflect these beliefs, and that should lead to global financial markets that serve the public interest. There is in last years, maybe last 15 years or something like this. Some people say that they are losing trust in financial designation, in financial profession, for different reasons. Many people or many participants, not too many, but there are some that behave unethically. So this is this thing that we don't like in CFA program, CFA Institute, and that's the reason that this is so much promoted. This is, as I said, very much global network. Since 1947, these associations in different regions, first mostly in the United States, but now all over the world, they impact investment profession. At some point of time in 1963, they said that we need some kind of exam just to see that our qualifications are improving, etc. What is also important that these programs, especially CFA program, are being recognized by regulators in very many markets, including Poland. I will tell you about this. And then, of course, this is the number of charter holders, and each year there is about 300,000 or a little bit more candidates. So people who are applying, taking exams, and applying for CFA charter. As I said, there are more than 150 societies. I think it's 158 at this moment. And the number of firms that employ charter holders is very significant. And also in last maybe decade or more and more affiliated universities are. So universities would like to take part of the curriculum for CFA and put into program of universities. That's a big success also, because the knowledge that is provided by curriculum of CFA is the knowledge of the level of university. As you see here also, there are offices. This is worldwide association, institution, organization, and there are offices. Originally, CFA Institute emerged from Charlottesville, Virginia, a very nice place. But now this is all over the world. So you see there are these 3 regions. One region is Americas, this is New York and Washington. There are these offices. And then there is, of course, EMEA, Europe, Middle East, and Africa, so London, Brussels. But also we have Mumbai, Abu Dhabi. And then there is Asia Pacific region, which Hong Kong and Beijing offices. So this is worldwide. There are numbers also here mentioned about members. This is dominating is still Americas, but this in terms of members. But in terms of candidates, if you look at these numbers, Americas is 91,000 candidates. In Europe, Middle East, and Africa is 62,000, but in Asia Pacific is 200,000 people. So it's candidates. So they are administered for particular level of the exam. It's very popular in this region, especially Singapore and Hong Kong, also in mainland China, and of course in Australia and New Zealand. So this is the status as for November, so half a year ago. Now let's little bit about us, CFA Society Poland. We were established in April 2004, and the name was Polish Association of Investment Professionals. But since then, CFA Society took this name of CFA Institute. So we decided also to change our name, and then we are already more than 15 years associated with CFA Institute, and we do promoting these professional standards, and that's what you see now. Even this is one of probably nine or 10 already organized webinars. We think that promotion of education ethics is very important for investment industry. Objectives of our society are, of course, as I mentioned, ethics, education, professional excellence, but we also decided to create local investment professional networks. So we have very often meetings. Now they are being online, as you know, for the reasons of the pandemic situation. but also we serve our members with continuous education, also with career development. So there are many possible ways of placing offers for job, and that's what is also our goal. Now, the most important part, I think that's what you probably came for, CFA program, the flagship program of CFA Institute, okay? This is there are two things here. The one thing's on the right, you have this photo. This is the first exam. That was in 1963 in Virginia, in Charlottesville, Virginia. You see some people taking place. I think there was about 260 people sitting for this exam. So compare this with 300,000 now, and you see that they are rather people of mature age, I should say, because they decided they have to take this exam to see whether they are closing the gap between education and practical needs. And the statement was by Financial Times 10 years ago, among the countless finest degrees around the world. These finest degrees are from very good, very top, from something that is almost rubbish. But chartered financialist qualifications become the gold standard. So you see, if you have CFA charter, that means that you passed these qualifications. Also, you met these requirements of ethics, and so this is globally recognized. You see, globally recognized professional credential. So it's not only local, that you get local certification. You can work with this certification in Poland, for example. No, it's global. So even if you are in Poland, even if you work in Warsaw, Krakow, Wrocław, cities like this, and this is multinational company, they would ask for your credentials of CFA, not necessarily only of the Polish national certificate, which is investment advisor, as you know, doradca inwestycyjny. And the rule is such that those people who have CFA charter, they can take test, which is 30-question test, mostly based on the questions from about legal regulation in Poland. And when they pass this test, they will get a license of investment advisor, Polski doradca inwestycyjny. So this is how our regulator, KNF, Financial Supervision Authority, recognized CFA program and CFA charter. Okay, what is important, that's a graduate level credential. You can start this when you have your bachelor degree, so it's needed. So after secondary school, it's still too early. The other things I mentioned here about recognition, about also universities affiliated, etc. So that's CFA equation. You have to have bachelor degree, or B, maybe when you start to register for this program, you have to be in the final year of bachelor. So if this is 3-year bachelor program, when you start your 3rd year of bachelor, you can register for the exam. And then possibly the exam will take place when you are going to complete your bachelor degree, and that's okay. There are 3 levels of exams, and then you have to have also 4 years of qualified work experience. But this work experience, so it's 48 months basically. It can be, you can collect this from different sources. So you can be junior analyst in one bank, let's say, for 6 months, and then you can be for 18 months as a senior analyst, maybe in some place. If you collect these things, and this is 48 months, and it doesn't matter in which time, in which period, you are qualified for CFA charter. So basically, exams plus qualified work experience. This is most important. Now, this is about the exam. Exam has 3 levels. It's not easy exam, of course, because there's a very deep knowledge, and you see the levels are organized in such a way that the level number 1, this is about investment tools. So quantitative methods. By quantitative methods, we mean basically time value of money calculation, like present value, future value, plus statistics. Well, the basic statistics and probability. Then, of course, there's basic economics. Then there's financial reporting and analysis. I'm taking this seriously, financial reporting. So important is what's in the financial statement, how they are, what the information comes from there. And in the last 20 years, I should say, there was considerable movement in the curriculum from US GAAP, from US Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, to IFRS, International Financial Reporting Standards. So now more and more material is from IFRS. And finally, there is corporate finance. That's the first level. The second level, this is about different asset classes. and they are divided into 4 parts. There are equities, stocks, there's fixed income like bonds, there are derivatives, and there are alternative investments like real estate, commodities, hedge funds, private equity mostly. And the third level is probably the most advanced, because this is about making decisions. It's portfolio management and wealth planning. By wealth planning, we mean individual investor portfolio management, like household. For example, and you have here, of course, institutional portfolio management for banks, for pension funds, for insurance companies, for mutual funds. Then there is a private wealth management, as I mentioned, for families mainly. Then there's portfolio evaluation. So how do you evaluate your results? And very much important part of risk management. So that's the third level of exam. Now, how exam is constructed? Level 1, there are multiple choice questions. So you get questions, and there's A, B, C, 3 possibilities. You have to select one possibility, tick, and then only one is correct. If you take wrong possibility, wrong option, let's say, you are not being punished for this. So it's even if you don't know what's the answer, you can simply take a shot. Okay. In the second level, this is also kind of multiple choice. It's called item set, which means that there are questions that are around some problem. So there's description of the problem, and then there are 6 questions for this problem, and then still there's multiple choice, but you have more time to answer these questions comparing to the level 1. And finally, the level 3, which is probably the most difficult in this sense, there are 2 parts. One part is similar as for the level 2, but it's only half of exam, item set. So you have these problems and then multiple choice questions to these problems, and that's it. And that's being offered in the afternoon. In the morning is something different. There are questions, open questions. It's called constructive response. So it's something like essay. So you have to answer questions. It's not that you pick up the possibility, pick up the option, pick up the particular choice, but you just have to write an answer. For example, what are the most important factors that leads to such decision or whatever, okay? So you have to write it down in English language, of course, and that's again 50% is being offered in the morning, because exam is for whole day, and third level is that the morning is different than the afternoon. Other levels, level 1 and level 2, morning and afternoon are the same in the sense that there is the same structure of the exam, just different questions. So this will be formatted. If we can speak, a little bit in concrete ways about this. So for level 1, you have 360 minutes, which means 6 hours, 2 hours 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the afternoon. And the question is each question has 1.5 minutes. So questions are rather short, and they are not very much complicated in this sense, but you have to read and answer, relatively fast. For level 2, there are only 120 items. So, again, so this means that you have 120 basically sets, and there are the questions. So and then there's 3 minutes per item. So each question has 3 minutes. Of course, you can spend more time or less time, but it's an average. So you can use your time and maybe spend 6 minutes for one question and 1 minute for the another question. And level 3, as I mentioned, afternoon is the same as level 2, but in the morning there is some number of different questions. They call it essay questions. 3 hours for this, and you just have to control yourself. It's not that there's 3 minutes per question or whatever, but there's indication, for example, this question, and there's indication 18 minutes. So that's kind of approximate number of minutes per question. But it could be other question, and there's only 7 minutes, let's say. So this is a little bit different story, and you have to have probably good strategy when you want to participate in this part of the exam, level 3, which I strongly recommend, of course. Grading process, of course, this is graded. Level 1 and 2 is machine graded. So you have to use special pencil, and tick the special ovals, or just fill ovals, and then it's being scanned by machine. It's 300,000 people, probably all of them as maybe more than 200,000 people taking level 1 and 2, and that has to be graded. So it's being scanned by scanner, by machine, and then also there is a sample, large sample, that is being graded by humans, in the sense that maybe people didn't fill good oval, and the machine didn't get it by scanning, right? So then, of course, it's being some sample, and humans are looking at this, whether it was correctly graded. Especially that would be important for the people who are in the threshold of passing this exam. Maybe there's 1 point more needed, and maybe this point was not counted by scanner. That's just by speculation about. For level 3, of course, part of this 50% is machine graded, the same as for level 1 and 2. But the rest, so the 50%, when there are these essays, there are open questions and constructive responses, you are going to have teams of charter holders. They usually come in July to Charlottesville, and they take all these responses and they grade this. So each grader grades only 1 question. They may grade, several thousand of exams, but only 1 question. And then they got final results. So this is very much, scrupulous and very much well organized, I think. Now, there is a change from 2021. That's important because, first of all, due to coronavirus, the June exam, usually these exams, well, almost always, they took place in June and in December, but December was only level 1. So in June, in the first Saturday of June, was level 1, 2, and 3. And then in December, usually first Saturday of December, there was level 1. So level 1 was offered 2 times a year, but in particular day. Now this year, due to the situation, there will be no June exam. And everybody who is registered on the level 1, 2, and 3 for June exam can re-register this, and the exam will be given in December. So basically, for the level 2 and 3, is not much change. The only thing that the exam will be 6 months later. For level 1, unfortunately, is the situation that instead of taking 2 exams, maybe if you fail in June, you could repeat in December. Now this is not possible. And in December 2020, this will be last paper exam, last paper for level 1. Okay, not for level 2 and 3. They will be still offered in the paper, at least for some years. But for the level 1, this will be last paper exam. And from 2021, there are changes. The exam will be moved to computer-based testing. Some of you may know how it works. You have to show, in particular, computer center, register and take exam at time when it's possible. So it's not particular, let's say, first Saturday in June. No, it will be 4 times in a year, and it will be kind of windows. So you can register for any day in this window. There will be more centers in the world, approximately, or even more than 400. Now there is about 190 centers in the world for the paper exam. And again, still paper exam will be for level 2 and 3. But for level 1, not. 4 times in a year, you see February, May, August, and November. 7 days window, so you will pick up window. And there are 2 sessions, like in the paper exam, but now session is shorter. You have not 120 questions, but you have 90 questions only for the session. Morning and, well, it will be not morning, afternoon, but we one session after another with 30 minutes break. So it's only 135 minutes. So it's a little bit shorter. And also what is important, the result will be no earlier than now, because now, everything has to be sent to Charlottesville for machine grading, for machine scanning. And then, there is decision what will be passing level. Now the results from the testing will be known immediately. The question is only what will be the passing level, which will be decided when all the exams, will be taken in particular months. Okay. So that's about exam. So I strongly encourage you to take this exam, and basically, now you have the opportunity. You can go for if you are registered, you can go for December. It's still half a year to prepare it, and then even if you fail in December. I believe you don't fail, but suppose that you fail, you can repeat this exam, unfortunately not in February in computer center, but in May. So, there is always a rule that between two exams should be about half a year of let's say, of distance, let's say. So what is the value of CFA Charter? First of all, it benefits of, this is international. It gives you more freedom where you want to work. You can work everywhere almost, maybe except for North Korea. But CFA charters are being accepted, in most countries. Maybe I'm not talking a very small island somewhere in Oceania, but that would be the idea. Your knowledge is more international, yet less local, which means that you don't need to memorize local law. There's nothing in these levels about legal regulation, nothing. Why? Because it's international. So you cannot learn about local laws because you will work internationally. Important thing is only that you have to pass ethics, and this ethics is in all three levels, and is about 15% of grade. Ethics is very important, and the ethics says that if you want to be ethical, you have to obey laws, legal regulations that are appropriate for you, or for your client, or for the place where you make your business, right? And then, of course, objective exam, because the exam is passed by hundreds of thousands of people in different continents, is the same standard. So it's, if you pass exam in particular date, is the same. You have the same, the same difficulty that person in Australia that passed in the same date. Actually, Australia is different time zone, so there's a little bit of difference when the exam is being offered. Basically, several hours of difference, right? Benefits is gold standard. It was mentioned. This is prestigious network. You can have a socializing and social network with the people of CFA charter holders and all that are sympathize with CFA maybe charter. A strong technical education, and as I said, global passport, very important global passport. In some countries they have waivers. I said in Poland there is waiver in the sense that you don't need to pass all these components of the investment license. The only thing you have to pass 30 questions test for the legal regulation in Poland, and the same will be if you want to get a license of broker. So not only investment advisor but also broker makler in Polish language. If you plan career in finance, start early. I'm strongly, advocating for starting this early, because if you are maybe still in university, you have more time to study. If you start your let's say professional job, probably you will be flooded with different tasks. So the question is, do you have enough time to study this, right? To study for CFA program, for CFA exam. That's important. And then also, if you put this on in your CV, you don't need to put on your CV that you are CFA charter holder. You may put in your CV that you are CFA level 1, that you passed level 1 of CFA, and then you may be registered for level 2. That's okay, because they say this is somebody tested you. So they don't need to test you because somebody tested, CFA exam tested you. This is employment by two criteria. One criterion is what is type of investment practice. Sure, 1/3 is still equities, of course, but there's fixed income, and there are all these alternatives. Private equity, the real estate, hedge funds, these things are called alternative investment. Of course, there is something that is not applicable. For example, some charter holders, some people, they may work in the, as a consultant in the private world. They may work also at education institution. I know that some or maybe many American universities, when they hire people for financial department, for Department of Finance, CFA charter is a benefit. So they would say, okay, we would like to hire out of these 200 applicants, we would like to consider people who have CFA charter, because we need this for education, etc. And then also there are classification with respect to roles by title. Traditionally there are two jobs: portfolio manager and research analyst. And you see that counts for 37%, so not everything. And the consultant is very important now. Many people, they have their own job as a consultant. Many people, they work as CFO. CFO is Chief Financial Officer, so financial director of the company, etc., etc., etc. So there's very wide opportunity to work, and well, I think that you could use this benefit. There are some employers here that these are global employers, so everything, you know, this is top. This is top in terms of the largest bank in terms of assets, JP Morgan, the most probably beneficial investment fund, BlackRock, for example, etc., etc. You could see also some companies, or many companies, that have these branches or offices in Poland, Credit Suisse, for example, but also Citigroup, etc., etc., HSBC, also JP Morgan recently opened, well, not recently, but several years ago. UBS, very strong group in Krakow for the managing, for the finance management, etc. I have to mention also other programs, you know. So it's not that there's only CFA program, but there are also other programs. I think that one of them could be, of these two, could be especially of good interest for you. But first, let's take this one. This is very specialized, a certificate in investment performance measurement. So, you know, CIPM, let's say, and this is for somebody who wants to be specialist in evaluating performance of investments and also selecting managers. You know, very often these very large institutions, when they have very many investment funds, these you know, sub funds, let's say, in very many areas, it's important that you pick up very good managers that are specializing in these areas. So the one manager could be specializing in I don't know, in Kazakhstan stocks. The other one could be specializing in commodities, etc., etc. So for this, you have to pick up, you know, the good people, and that will help you, because that will show certificate will tell you when you take this exam. Exam is in computer-based centers here. It's not in the traditional paper form. And then you take this exam, and then you have skills in this, so you could be in this area. But what I would recommend also, this is certificate, let's say, which is the newest one. It has been around for, I don't know, 8-10 years, maybe. Now the name is Investment Foundations Program. So you see, this is the essentials of, is not that deep and that wide, let's say, as a CFA program. It only takes one exam, one level of exam, and as far as for CFA program, they recommend that at least 300 hours per level, at least 300 hours of study. It also depends if you graduated from university that has good finance background and finance programs, then maybe it's less than 300 hours. But if you graduated from some other, let's say, background, maybe you need more than 300 hours. For investment foundations, average number of hours could be like 50 only, and it's one level exam. And these are essentials. You see, foundations, essentials of finance. Of course, ethics is still important. So that's for people who would like to work in the investment industry, but they would not make explicit investment decisions. So, you know, and that's mentioned. Anyone who wants to enter or advance with the investment management industry, including IT people. You know, IT people, they don't make this investment decisions, but possibly they write programs and they prepare systems and say they have to understand what's investment management. Operations, accounting, administration, marketing, even HR group, they should know this, okay? This is zero cost program, so you know, you don't pay for this, so it's free. Actually, you learn, there are materials on the website, and then you take exam. This only in English, of course. I just that you see what's inside. So you see, there are very many different concepts, but they are not so deep because they have to be understood by the people who work in the investment industry, but they don't make decisions. They are not research analysts, they are not portfolio managers, maybe they are not consultants, etc., but they are helping the investment managers, right? So you see here, for example, there is something like, you know, chapter 20, investment industry documentation. Somebody has to do it, right? And for example, quantitative concept, number 8. The quantitative concept, that's very general. So this is basic quantitative stuff. It's not very sophisticated mathematics, of course. and a little bit about regulation also. Okay. Other things that I want to cover before we go to the questions and answer session. If there are any questions, we will see in a moment. There are some, let's say, initiatives. The one which is flagship initiative for students, basically, for universities, it's CFA Institute Research Challenge. And this is local competition, is hosted by us, and the same is hosted by other societies in the world. This is very much a prestigious competition, I should say. And then the idea is here that there are teams of students from different universities being formed, and then they have to write a report about company. Company is being picked by society, so like by us, in this case, Society Poland for Poland, and they have like 2 months to write this report. Then report is being graded, and the graders, they don't know who wrote report, so there's team A, B, C, D, etc. And then the best reports, they go for the final, and final is being organized at the Warsaw Stock Exchange premises, and the best, let's say 5-6 teams, they present in 10 minutes the report, and then there's 10 minutes of questions and answers. And then the best team, or sometimes best 2 teams, depending how many universities competed in Poland, let's say. Also, it's not only Poland, because we organize for Lithuania and Latvia. So Lithuanian universities and Latvian universities, they join us for this competition. Usually there are several of them, and well, usually one of them or more, they go to the local final. And this local competition is being held around beginning of March, let's say, and the winning team goes to regional final. And there are 3 regions: EMEA, Europe, Middle East, and Africa. That's our region. Then there are Americas, so North and South of America, and there's Asia Pacific. Asia Pacific is East Asia, and then there is, of course, Australia and New Zealand. And then, of course, these winning teams from regional final, they go for global final, and global final is usually organized at the end of April in one place. So there are 4 or 5 teams, depending. Sometimes there are 2 teams from the region. So at most there are 5 teams, and these 5 teams, they give presentation, they ask questions, and the best is being the winner. And then this year, for the first time, because of pandemic situation, we still have opportunity in Poland to do it live in the sense that in the room. So in the Warsaw Stock Exchange, there was, already there were signs of virus, of course, in the world, but it was not yet the situation of mid-March. It was earlier, right? So we are lucky to have this on the Warsaw Stock Exchange. But then I said during this competition that I'm not quite sure whether the winning team will go for the regional final, and regional final was scheduled the beginning of April in Jordan, in that sea. And I told that I'm not sure whether this regional final will take place in the room, and in fact it took place online. So there was online organization, and then also a global final in New York. Actually, in New York, it was supposed to take place in New York, but it was online. Was won by University of Sydney. University of Sydney won this competition, and then each year I have to tell you that we have one big success in 2013. That the team from Poland, namely from Wrocław University of Economics, and in this graph you see these 5 people standing. So these are those 5 people who won the global final. I mean, they won local, they won regional, and then they won global final, which was held in London this particular year. Okay, so this analysis of publicly traded company. There's a meeting with management, so they can ask management. They look at they look at different information. And of course, what is important, that there's mentor. There is mentor assigned by CFA Society Poland. This is investment professional. So the person who knows how to write reports and who knows about, how to say methodology, etc. And of course, this person helps. Also, each team has a faculty advisor, because there's somebody from a university that selects the people to the team and also helps a little bit. So my strong encouragement is that next year, actually we will plan, I hope that will be not done online only, But I do hope that when we start in November, probably something like this, we can have first kickoff. A kickoff will be usually in the premises of headquarters. So this year we had PZU, and before we had other like PKN Orlen. The winning team in 2013, that was KGHM, Copper Mining Holding, etc., etc. We had the project, of course, several years ago. That was also very successful. Usually, Polish teams, they advance to the regional final, to the best final. I mean, maybe exception with last year or two, but they usually advance to regional finals, and we're among the 4 or 5 best teams in EMEA. Once it happened that they won the regional global final. Okay, so you see the numbers here. How many students participate, how many volunteers, and how many universities. So this became global event, and is being also, when I looked online, because before you can also watch the final was organized in a particular place, let's say London or New York or wherever, but this was live streaming, so you could watch this online, right? And you saw this is like Bloomberg television or like CNBC or something like this. There were comments from practitioners, so it's really very prestigious. Okay, let's go on. What we would like to say also from CFA Society, we decided to organize ethics challenge. This is local, but there are several places in the world where these ethics challenges are being offered, are being organized. I think one of the very first we decided to take kind of example from them was CFA Society Toronto. They organized this, and we said we like this very much. It's organized in Polish language. It's not in English. Well, for the reason, for cultural reasons maybe. And this year is the 3rd edition. So there were 2 editions already when there were cases, ethics cases, very almost real cases or real cases almost. Which now this year we are very successful because there are 20 teams. 20 teams submitted solutions, and then we are going to, probably tomorrow is the deadline for this. Tomorrow there will be announcement of the several teams. I'm not sure how many, but several teams. This is jury, they will decide. And this will be announcement, and on the 29th of May, you can go online. Again, you have to register before, of course, but that's free. And you can go online and see this competition. So several teams will be presenting this, and there will be judges. Judges are from industry, etc., etc., and they will judge them. So, okay, so that's the ethics challenge. And I think I'm going to basically stop at this moment in my presentation. I think that maybe it will be good now if I go back. To our screen, let's say, and first I would like to look at the chat, but I don't see any questions in the chat. I see only remarks that our guests, our distinguished guests, came, and I'm going to, you can send questions. You can send a question to our office, to CFA Society Poland office, and we will answer this if you hesitated to ask questions on the chat. But now I'm going to go into our panel. This panel has 4 distinguished persons who join us for this panel, and we will talk about the benefits, about the situation, about what CFA Charter Holder brings you. And I have to introduce these members of our panel. I have a big luck or big chance to be moderator, so I will ask some questions, and we expect live discussion. So maybe let's start. I'm going to start with the ladies, if it's possible. First is Roxana Churysek-Geli. Roxana, I see Roxana here. Roxana is the member of financial community. She was in our board also years ago, board of CFA Society Poland. Now Roxana is mostly in London. She is a finance person, as I understand, but she is also artist. Roxana relates these things like technology, like art, and also science in the sense of science of finance. She has experience in being a manager in financial companies, including Bank PKO SA, but also in private banking and also in PKO International now. She worked with Credit Suisse, etc., etc. So we are particularly very, very lucky, Roxana, that you could join us. Good evening. Well, not good evening yet. I think it's still good afternoon. So Roxana is our first person that I present. Then there's another lady. It's Julia Orlich, and Julia is from CFA Institute, from EMEA, which EMEA branch, which is EMEA office, which is in London, Europe, Middle East, and Africa. She's the manager of relationships, and she manages relations with CFA Institute and CFA charter holders and societies with different institutions, and also including Poland. So she has experience in other areas, including Middle East, of course, and including projects management, etc., etc. So welcome, Julia. It's nice that you could join us. And then we go to our gentleman. There's Piotr Mazurkiewicz. Welcome, Piotr, to our panel. He's partner in HRK, and he's specialist in the financial markets in terms of personal advising, in terms of looking for a specific people, etc., etc. So I'm glad that you could tell us in our panel what skills and what qualification, what kind of people are important now to be employed, to be in this business. And we have also Dr. Emil Łobodziński. Emil is graduated from my university, actually, so I'm very glad of this, and gets also doctoral degree, but Emil is CFA charter holder and now works in the brokerage house of PKO BP, and also does a lot of things in the teaching of the people who are preparing for the exams in this region. And also, I'm very glad that Emil joins us for many our, let's say, road shows. We organize road shows with the help of different institutions, just promote education, not only CFA education, but promote long-term thinking, promote investing in long-term, and also ethical standards. We were successful in launching the big series of ethical events. There were totally six events in this series with the panel of discussion about ethical problems. But now so I invite you to our panel, and I would like to start with a question simply. First, maybe I will start with Oksana. She has experience of course, in CFA program. So my question to Roxana is, why did you decide to go for CFA program some years ago, let's say? I can say when was it, but it was not much time ago, okay, I would say. But was it beneficial? I mean, was it such that if you earned CFA charter, then the things turn out to be much easier for you or not? What do you think?
Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you for inviting me to join today. With Professor Jajuga, I've known for some time. Indeed, we were part of the board of the CFA Poland as well. And I will tell you like this. Okay, in a nutshell, CFA is one of the best things I've done. And one of the reasons, I'm always laughing when I say that, because actually this is how I met my husband. And it was really long time ago. It was 18 years ago, or almost 20 actually, when I started studying for CFA. And at that time, I have to tell you, CFA was not really so popular as it is now, as you can imagine. And at that time, when I was telling people I'm studying for the CFA, like usually I got completely blank faces. People say, what? Like, you mean SFA? Or so I always had to be explaining. And interestingly, I started studying for the program when I was doing my first job, which was at EBRD, European Bank for Reconstruction and Development in London. And at that point, actually, my boss questioned. He was like saying, why are you taking these exams? It sounds long, you need 3 years. And also, it's just like, what would you do with this? You are probably going just to leave us. So it was a bit different times. I would say now CFA truly became a standard, and it's widely recognized. And also in certain jobs, certain employers, top employers, in fact, wouldn't even consider for certain positions without this exam. So yeah, all in all, it was a great decision to do it. It wasn't the most popular decision when I started doing it. What I do appreciate, and I think is important, I came from Poland, having studied engineering and masters in Gdańsk at Technical University. You can imagine at that time, if you're in the city, people question like, is it a good university? No one knows, or haven't heard much about university in Gdańsk. So being able to actually have a internationally recognized qualification was really a big advantage, because then no one questions anymore, is it a good or bad university, but all they see is that you are someone who has international qualification. So yeah, I think it was also, it was painful studying for the exam, because you really have to forget your life for a bit. But I think it's really one of these things that you would never regret, and it will set your career on a completely different trajectory. I know we don't have as much time, so I don't want to take on. So that's the first part of my thoughts.
Okay, there will be more questions. There will be more questions, but I think I'm going to ask the same question to Emil, because he's CFA charter holder. And when you decide to join this program, why? And what it brought to your life in terms of your professional life?
I would say that when I joined the CFA program, I was finishing the exams for the Polish investment advisor license. And I thought that, okay, I have something that is recognized in Poland, but I have nothing that is recognized abroad. And because at that time I didn't know whether I was going to stay in Poland or maybe go somewhere else. So I decided that it could be worth doing something international, and the CFA was something like that. I admit that it was I think it was the very good decision because of two things. First of all, the knowledge. The CFA program, passing all the 3 exams of the CFA, gives you a really, really good, thorough knowledge of finance market. And I must frankly say that studying for the CFA program was, on one hand, of course, painful thing, as Roxana said, but on the other hand, it was a kind of pleasure, and especially reading the CFA materials was a very, very good thing in terms of knowing the market. And it was something that I liked studying for the Polish license. So in terms of knowledge, CFA definitely I would advise everybody to do. The second thing, which is not probably now as much as important as it was then, was the language. Because of course now everybody knows English, but in fact, if it comes to talking in special finance English, it's not so obvious. And I thought that, okay, doing the CFA program will give me a kind of, let's say, easy course of learning the finance English, and I must say that it actually did. So this was very good way to increase your English language. So two things. And the third thing that I wasn't aware then, but I really appreciate now, is the thing that you meet people. I met people during the exams. I met people later after the exams when CFA Institute holds different events. And this is the third thing that is really important for me. And I think that if you start your career, probably the knowledge, the language is more important. But then I think the people is the main goal, the main thing that you should take care of.
Okay, thank you very much. In meantime, I got some questions on the chat, so I'm going to combine these questions with the questions that I want direct to you. And Roxana, Julia, and Emil, you have CFA charters, and then could you tell a little bit in terms of what are the tips? How can you pass these exams? I just want to read one or two questions that I just got. One question is from somebody who says, I am a student of finance course in English. We were told that there is a possibility to exempt some of the exams. How many of them? I don't know who told you this. I'm talking just to this person, because there's no exemption from CFA exams. There's nothing that you can pass. You can have a PhD from Harvard University or from Stern School of Business, but there's no exemption from this. There's the other way around. It's possible if you look for other designations, for example, PRM, Professional Risk Manager. I know a little bit about this also because I was involved in these exams even. So there are there used to be at least 4 exams. And if you have CFA charter, you will be exempted from 2 of them. Just you need to pass 2 of them. So this way it works, but not the other way around. So unfortunately, answer to your question is that you are not exempted on the exams. I don't know who told you this, because that's fake news, basically. And the second, maybe I should also answer the second question, which is related to my presentation. Marek said that, how should I confirm my professional experience of 4 years? Which documents should I present to CFA Institute? That's very technical, but I think that you have to present statement. I think maybe Julia would like to answer this because it's related to CFA Institute, but I think you have to present some documents, some statements of your employers. Julia, could you maybe answer this question and maybe tell what is the help from CFA Institute to the people who would like to take this exam? Oh, I think there is.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Okay, good. Yes, so in terms of the professional experience, that's actually a very good point. So as our charter holders on the panel will know, it's not simply enough to pass the 3 levels of the CFA program. One also needs to have a specific amount of time of professional work experience. So CFA Institute knows that you have actually put the knowledge and the skills that you have learned during the program into practice. And that needs, of course, needs to be verified. So the equivalent is basically 4 years of professional work experience, but we have made this a lot more flexible recently, how you accumulate this work experience. So whether it is full-time, part-time, as long as it adds up to 4 years in the end. And as Professor Jajuga said, this is getting quite into the weeds here, but you basically need to provide some documentation verifying that you have worked in relevant roles. You need to describe what your role has been. So it's not just enough to work in the financial services industry, but it needs to be a role that basically adds value in some way to the investment decision-making process. And then you need to provide some professional references as well. So, of course, the exact guidelines are on our website, and they support there for candidates who have passed their 3rd level and who want to become CFA charter holders. But mainly it is, have you been working in a role that adds value to the investment decision-making process for a certain period of time?
Also, there was a related question, when should I do it? I think there is no requirement that you can have 4 years of professional experience and then you would like to decide to go for exams. And that sometimes happens in the United States. There are these people who are already professionals. They have been working for years, and the boss says, dear colleague, it would be nice if you can also pass CFA exam because it will enhance your knowledge and skills. And then, of course, exams comes after. For young people, I know Polish experience, young people, students, sometimes it happens, and I know graduates from my university, that when they graduate, so this is 5 years of study, bachelor, 3 years plus master, they might have already 3 levels of exam passed. But they don't have 4 years of experience. I mean, usually they work during the studies, but probably not 4 years, as Julia said, of the exactly things that are related to investment decision making. So you may work, for example, in marketing department, let's say. That doesn't count, I believe. There is on the website, there's a list of very, very, very many professions and jobs that are counted towards this professional experience. For example, if I'm teaching, let's say finance, that counts, right? So educators count. If you write doctoral thesis in finance and investment, that will count as well, right? For 4 years, let's say. So I mean, this is very flexible when you do it. There's also no requirement in the sense that if you pass level 1, then in next 2 years you have to pass level 2. This is the case of Polish license of investment advisor. That if you pass level 1, then you have some time to complete level 2. Not here. You can, in the age of 20, you can pass level 1. In the age of 40, you can pass level 2. At the age of 60, you can pass level 3, theoretically at least. So I don't see any problem with this. And these are such rules. You saw these people on the exam in 1963. There was just one level of exam at this time, and these were older people. They just wanted to train themselves to ask how good they are in knowledge and skills. Okay, so I just now would like to go, because you mentioned that maybe there are some benefits in terms of jobs. So now my question now will go to Piotr Mazurkiewicz, because you know about hiring people. And let's say I have basically 2 questions. One question is for today, basically. So what opportunities now are looking by finance professionals in the market, and where? And the second question, the world develops very fast. The situation is dynamic, not only because of pandemic situation, but also before coronavirus, we had this very much developing, let's say, environment. So what would be emerging areas where finance professionals are looking for the jobs, and what skills are needed for these jobs? Please have your experience in this area. Okay, I think there's we can't hear you. Okay, there's something wrong with your microphone, maybe. Okay. Now we still can't hear you. Okay, refreshment, that's good. Let's use your refreshment. Okay, is Piotr there? Piotr is refreshing, so I think in the meantime I can maybe go to another question, but we hope that the things will be clarified very, very soon. We still don't have Piotr here, he's refreshing. So maybe one of you remaining people in the panel, what do you think about these professions, about these skills that are needed? On one hand, there could be Roxana view, and also June. Oh yeah, there's Piotr with us. Okay, so sorry.
Yes.
Are you okay, Piotr?
Can you hear me? It's okay?
Yeah, no, it's okay. Perfect. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. First of all, coronavirus should not influence negatively work market in the area of capital market. What we observe now, a lot of positions which we had before the pandemic situation still is on the roll, is running. Because the even lockdowns exist in the normal market, typical scenario market, but not capital one. For example, in Poland, large financial institutions are still interested in setup and development of competences in hubs. I think this trend may accelerate development and new financial and digital competences in the nearest future. So, if we ask where we can find the job, I answer in financial institutions which create, set up, and develop hubs in Poland now. This trends or coronavirus maybe slow down this process, but won't stop. Besides, controlling and cost management will be amended with a rising role of outsourcing and cost agility. Due to the VUCA times, financial planning will be more complex and will require numerous options to meet requirements of business and in unpredictable time. So, in my opinion, financial controllers and CFOs in the organization will be more even important in this time, like in permanent growth.
Okay, that's important what you said. So how about the kind of opinion of the other people in the panel about this? What do you feel, Roxana? You are in business, of course, so you know what people are needed, what kind of people, and in which especially areas the CFA designation will help to get a good job, and not only because of coronavirus, I think, but also in general.
Yeah. So look, there is a lot of talk going on now about the future of work. And I had the pleasure of attending Singularity University a few years ago when we discussed it. Now, obviously, the current crisis is definitely making lots of people rethink. We know lots of people lost jobs already. Now, I would say if we were to really look a very big picture, so not just finance, but beyond, definitely combining financial knowledge, which is not a question even, having financial knowledge, but combining it with something else. So really, it's important to be a very well-rounded person who is resilient, but also who is able to reinvent. So we know that when my father, my parents were, when I was studying, they wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer. I've decided to study business and pursue my other passions like art. And I really believe that more of a portfolio, I call it career, so being able to navigate very much different areas, so be it finance, but not just limited to finance, so being able to look beyond that. So someone who will be able to have all these skills, not just very narrow one, would be the winner, I believe. And even when you look in finance right now, I have done lots of, or participated with many workshops for board members. And, you know, the companies that will survive as well will be the ones who innovate. And now creativity is the key to innovation. So really, how do you bring, which is something I'm very passionate about, how do you bring creativity, which really means solving issues, thinking outside of the box. Now, I truly believe CFA will become even more important because it might replace studies for MBA or masters in economics, because it gives you a very high level of knowledge and standard that is practically equal to, especially on the financial side, to MBA. So I actually believe that CFA will gain even further importance, and then depending what are your passions, but you can, I was listening to Professor Harari and he suggested that probably the best thing to study is philosophy. So maybe if you have CFA and study philosophy and maybe art, it will be a good combination.
Well, thank you very much. I am very much in favor of what you said, and especially that CFA might be preferred over some other university programs. Again, I'm not telling about maybe very top, very specialized doctoral programs in finance, but I'm talking about, let's say, MBA in finance, for example. And I remember from my experience, like 10, 15 years ago, let's say, yeah, maybe 15 years ago, there was discussion about academia versus practice, right? So people at university and professionals, CFA charter holders, etc. And these two sides, they look at each other and they maybe say, first of all, academia says that, oh, we are teaching very important things from science, this is very sophisticated, etc. And you practitioners, what you do, you just do very basic things. And then the practitioners, they say, well, what you teach there in academia, you teach people theory, and when they come to our institution, we have to teach them again practical things. But these things changed. Now there is a big movement of approaching this, because on one hand, the financial theory becomes more practical. So you don't allow now theoretical things that have no relations to practice, so very abstract things. And also in practice, these things that are solved in practice, they are becoming much more advanced. So they need this theoretical approach. And for this reason, I think CFA decided to have this affiliation program. First, it was partnership programs with some universities. Now it's called affiliation program. So those universities who put CFA curriculum into the programs in finance or even in MBA, they are being affiliated and they got a lot of benefits. So now I'd like to ask Julia, because this is the question related to the help from CFA Institute, basically, and the help is great for universities affiliated, but also there is a great help from CFA Institute through societies to charter holders. So on one hand, as you pass exam, you get your charter, and then what else? Then your life starts after this because you are in community. So Julia, could you tell a little bit about the help and then some advice, etc., from CFA Institute to, on one hand, to candidates, but on the other hand, also to charter holders?
Of course, very happy to. If I may, just before I do that, I would love to build on a point that Roxana has just mentioned. Roxana, I really loved your comments about broadening your portfolio, about not being limited to just one industry. And this actually has come out of some research that CFA Institute has done recently about the concept of a T-shaped individual. So basically what that looks like is, if you imagine a capital letter T, the vertical line would be your special subject matter expertise, your one area where you are really specialized and an expert in. Whereas the horizontal line would represent your much broader understanding of the financial services industry, but also your general knowledge of everything else you know. And then where you bring the two together to form that capital letter T, that is your ability to connect those two skill sets and those two areas of knowledge. And our research has shown that indeed T-shaped individuals and also T-shaped teams at firms will be the most successful going forward. So Roxana has very aptly illustrated that in her example. In terms of going back to Professor Yayuga's question about the support that CFA program candidates, but also CFA charter holders receive, I completely agree. Everyone focuses on passing the exams and studying, and then you do pass them, you become a CFA charter holder, and the real journey only starts there. And really, what I think we all need to remember throughout that whole journey, and then once you've become a charter holder and you continue through your professional life, is this commitment to lifelong learning, that even when you've passed those exams, and as our charter holders on the panel have mentioned, it is a lot of work and a lot of studying, the real journey only starts then. So this lifelong learning never stops. And of course, CFA Institute has a wealth of resources there. We'll only touch on a few, but we have a dedicated professional learning team at CFA Institute. So professional learning is what we call continuing professional development or continuing education. We just find that professional learning summarizes that best. And that team is constantly working on professional learning content, whether that be articles, whether it be conferences, live events, which are of course online at the moment. And all of that is currently being built to really turn into a professional learning journey. So when you become a CFA charter holder, you're not just given a lot of content and you need to figure it out yourself, but that you actually have a path, a professional development path mapped out for you, for your circumstances and for your career. And to do that, what we've also done recently is the credentialing team, in partnership with the professional learning team, have developed a competency framework, which some of you may have heard about already. And that competency framework really illustrates which competencies do you need in which role in the financial services industry. And if you wanted to move from one role to another, what might be your gaps? Which are the competencies you might have to develop? And not only will that inform your continuing professional development journey going forward, since all our content will be mapped towards that framework, but it will also inform the CFA program curriculum, so that when you go through the program as a candidate, you know why you're studying each topic, because it will actually link to competencies that you will need in real life, in your professional life.
Okay, thank you, Julia. I just moved to now, because there are also some questions about passing this exam. And so I just, before I ask Emil about some tips to pass exam, I just want to say that there's one question here. I think in the chat I got this question, which says that, okay, just a moment. Just read this. Yes. How advanced math are these exams? So are they advanced in terms of mathematics? I think I mentioned this. That's basically the level of mathematics is being tested as investment tools in the first level, and that's quantitative methods, and basically there are two parts. One part is time value of money. So as I mentioned, present value, future value, internal rate of return, etc., etc. So stuff that in most good Polish universities are being taught in the second semester of bachelor, basically. So this should be not a big problem. Secondly, you got also statistics in terms of statistical probability distributions, and then some tools for hypothesis testing, which is also the part of education on the bachelor level, probably semester 3 or 2, something like this. So I would say that if somebody is graduating from good university with a good program, and the person who asked me that he has, or she has, I don't know because there's no name here, courses in finance in English, of course, this does not mean that this will be exemption from the exam, but it will be much, much easier to pass exam, especially level 1. So that will be my tip. For level 1, you have to have a good background in these areas and do a lot of examples, of course, not just read the readings. There are excellent readings by CFA Institute. You get these books now in the electronic form, of course, and then you have to go through these books, but do a lots of examples. If you do lots of examples, you will be, when you go for exam, you have this 1.5 minutes for question. It will be maybe even too much for you because you are so well prepared. Second thing is also you have to master financial calculator, because part of these calculations is being done with the use of financial calculator. There are two types which are allowed, and they do these special types of calculations as I mentioned, future value, present value, etc., etc. So I don't think the level is very advanced, but you have to understand this, especially when it comes to the second level. And second level is about asset classes. And for example, if it comes to, I don't know, to fixed income, there are tools that allow you to look at term structure of interest rate, etc. You don't need to do these calculations, but you need to understand this. So if there is a question that covers this partially, you understand how to solve it. The same is for option pricing, for example. So that would be my tip as far as mathematics is concerned. But I also think my big advice would be here for exam, look at ethics. Why look at ethics? Because ethics, the questions in ethics are a little bit longer. It describes the situation. It's not the question, there are data and what's the correlation coefficient or whatever. It's the description of situation, and then this in foreign language, of course, for you. So you have to understand this, and you have to pick up the question. So ethics will be important. So basically, the advice will be spent 2 times more for ethics than for any of other subjects. So this would be these tips. Emil, do you have anything to be added to this? Because you have experience, you passed a CFA level 1, 2, and 3 several years ago, so you still remember maybe this. So could you share your tips maybe?
I remember passing all the 3 exams very well. First of all, I would say that I agree with ethics. I started my first exam in the CFA program after finishing the investment license, and ethics was the one thing that was completely new, and I really had to study this topic. It's not so easy, although maybe it may sound quite easy, at least at first. But it's not, so I definitely recommend studying this topic very, very well. So this is first thing. The second thing is read the CFA materials. The books are really a great source of knowledge. The examples are really in a friendly way presented. So I know that it will be time consuming. It will take you probably at least 3 months for each exam to study, but really reading the books is really good way to first of all to study, but as well to gain the knowledge. I mean, to know that, okay, I passed the exam, but I really know that I know the things that I were reading about. So this was the second thing. The third thing, give yourself time. CFA is not an easy exam. It's not an exam at school. This is something serious. So give yourself really time to study each topic. And my personal suggestion is that plan your study in that way that at least 1 week before the exam, so that you will have the last week just for yourself, for only doing the reviews, maybe the mock exam, but generally it's for you. It's for having a break from studying, so that when you go to the exam day, you are kind of, let's say in a sport manner, a fresh person. Like you have the energy to write the exam. So these 3 advices from me.
Thank you very much. I have to tell that the CFA exam is difficult, but the passing rate is not too bad. The passing rate for CFA exam is roughly, of course it changes in different years, but roughly for the level 1 it's close to 45%. So it's less than 50%, but let's say 45%, 44%, 43% people taking level 1, both in June or December, depending, they pass it. So it's not too bad. For the level 2 is a little bit higher, it's between 45 and maybe even 48%, something like this. And for level 3 is even more than 50%. It could be like 52, 54%. So it's not too bad. The only thing is that, you know, it takes time. So you see, you when you start, let's say when you take, for example, you decide to take December 2020 exam, paper form, the last possibility. You pass this. You are very lucky. Then it's still time that you register for June 2021 level 2. There's 6 months that you still can register. And then if you pass level 2, then you can register for level 3 for June 2022. So after 1.5 years, you are done with this, given that you passed these exams on the first trial, of course. But even if you don't, you know, you have experience that the curriculum doesn't change that significantly. Although I have to admit that there is very serious project which has been running for many years, so-called practice analysis. So before exam is constructed by CFA Institute, by CFA exam, CFA Institute, before it's being done, there is a long practice analysis. So there are contacts with practitioners in different countries, including, for example, sometimes they come to Poland and they have practitioners from Poland and they ask, what do you think, dear practitioner, dear finance person, professional, what's now important in terms of qualifications? I will ask also this question to Piotr in a moment, but I will tell about practice analysis. And then they indicate these things. They also ask charter holders. There is survey of charter holders through internet, through some kind of monkey survey or something like this. What kind of typical areas should be included into CFA, and which are not so important maybe now, that could be excluded. And I see this, the significant thing is that they do it, by they I mean CFA Institute, but it's CFA community actually. They do it now once a year, at least each year. Many years ago it was done each 5 years. But you see now the things are changing so rapidly that this is being done once a year. And one sign of the changes is that since 2019 exam, if I correctly remember, there are first material in the fintech investment management, so big data, artificial intelligence, robo advisory, stuff like this. And now they are included also in the level 2, and they will come probably in level 3, as I can remember. So the curriculum changes. It doesn't change very rapidly that each year you have completely different story, because that would be not reliable designation, but it changes. And I believe still that the certificate, the designation is very robust. That's what Roxana said, that, you know, if you have CFA and philosophy maybe degree, yeah, because with good philosophy degree, you see things wide, very wide. And Julia said also about this T structure, that on one hand wide, on the other hand deep. So my question to Piotr will be now, if you want to give some advice as a person who looks at job market, and you know, there were statements that COVID-19, despite that COVID-19 is the main, how to say, the main driving force of digitalization. Without COVID-19, people would be not so much digitalized. I look, for example, in universities. In my university, in 3 days, immediately switched from teaching in classes to teaching by using different systems, Microsoft Teams, Zoom, etc., etc. Okay, so Piotr, could you tell now with this very situation, very dynamic, what would you advise to people? You mentioned that financial controlling, for example, but what do you advise in a little bit longer term? By longer term, I could mean 5 years. Now it's longer term, maybe. It was short term some time ago. But what would you advise in terms of kind of designing the path with a good career? Because people will change jobs, definitely. But what would be your projections? I know that this is not an easy question, but I think you have experience looking at the market, so you may tell it a bit.
Of course, by coronavirus, everybody has to learn new competences like remote work. Like you said, Krzysztof, in 3 days, a lot of companies didn't have in business continuity test such a situation, like, you know, in 1 day, 2 days, you have to change anything. You have to close the office. You need to work remotely. So if we see on the career path on the next months, 2-3 years, we should start to think about the digital competences, because analytical skills are still the major skill of financial professionals, but it's not only the first choice for employers as a candidates. What competences will be desired in the future? Of course, metadata analysis. And I'm not thinking about what everybody has to analyze metadata, big data analysis, but have to customize intelligent machines. So the digital competences like ability to communicate remotely by not only one video system, but, for example, by seven typical different systems like Zoom, Skype, Cisco WebEx, VM, Xcall, like yours. It's normal for us that we in next 2-3 years will be work maybe 2-3 days at home. So that digitalization, in my opinion, after coronavirus pandemics, will speed up very frequently, because a lot of companies wants to predict maybe next unpredictable situation, which may be, let's say, be done for us in 2 years, 5 years, or even 10. So summarize, digital competences, this is crucial, which we can observe and which we want to build our career path. Our job will be mixed up with the IT jobs. We will become rather IT business specialist, not only financial specialist.
Okay, that's important, that this is type of skill that is needed. What would be the London perspective? I would like to ask Julia and Roxana, because London, at least until now, is the largest financial center in the world, before New York and before Singapore. I don't know whether Brexit will change something, and now there are other problems in UK, of course. But what's your perspective, being in the largest financial center in the world, in terms of job market? Maybe, just somebody who looks at this on daily basis. Julia, Roxana, whoever likes to give you some points in this. Okay.
Well, I can go first if you don't mind, Roxana.
Yeah.
So I actually completely agree with what has just been said in terms of this absolutely accelerated transition to a digital work environment, and this need for people to be well versed in technology, in working remotely, in handling different technologies. I think we have all seen this. This has been a trend for quite some time, but it's certainly being massively accelerated by the current crisis, as has just been explained. So we at CFA Institute, we did some work on this, looking at what investment professionals will have to acquire in terms of skills, and how their careers might be shaped in the next 5 to 10 years. Of course, that was pre the current crisis, but I think the findings are not less relevant now. In fact, they might be even more relevant. And what we looked at around technology there was that literally everyone, no matter your role, no matter your expertise, has to become tech savvy, for lack of a better word. So that doesn't necessarily mean we all need to become experts in technology, and we don't need to become technology professionals, even though some of us will. But if you think about it, like a pyramid, basically, the bottom of the pyramid, the wide base, those basic technology applications, absolutely everyone will have to be comfortable with those. There is absolutely no excuse anymore. There is no way around that. In the middle are more specialized applications, where maybe investment professionals will continue to partner with technology professionals. And then at the top, at the tip of the pyramid, there will be hyper specialized applications, which very few of us will become experts in. But I think the key thing there to remember around technology is that we all need to be able to make technology work for us and to harness it for our purposes, rather than us working for technology. And given what the outlook seems to be here in London, I mean, of course, it's all very uncertain. None of us really know just yet, but it seems to be the trend that especially the bigger financial centers, the bigger cities, are a lot slower in returning to a work in the office environment due to public transport, due to all sorts of logistical issues. And therefore, I think these tech skills and this adaptability to be able to work effectively remotely will be even more important in the big centers than elsewhere.
Okay. Roxana, do you have any different views on this, maybe, or not?
Not really different views. I think the short answer, we don't know. I think that is probably the most genuine answer. Now, clearly, there's been a lot of talk about the role of London as a global financial center already in view of the Brexit. Now we have Brexit, but we also have COVID-19. And what Julia mentioned and others before, of course, there is no doubt that we have made a huge leap, probably that is equivalent to 10 years of development in terms, starting from how you, Professor, said that universities suddenly, if they were to estimate before how long it would take them to become fully digital, they would probably say 5 to 10 years, and they've done it in a very short space of time. So similar, certain jobs that we thought are just impossible to be doing from homes. We've proven because we had no choice that they can be done from home. So absolutely, I think that situation have changed how we were going to work forever. And now the answer is really, I think there's no doubt that we live in a digital world, and absolutely we knew it. I see how my children, how they think, how they operate. We live in the digital world. Now the question truly is the post-COVID world, how it's going to affect our daily interaction at the office and so on. And we know already that the real estate and the offices that has been built are not fit now for the current social distancing rule. So I absolutely, definitely see not only London becoming less important in terms of physical presence, but it will be driven by the fact that people will be working away from the cities. So before you are in London or Paris or New York, for the network, for the closeness to the place of work, now the importance of the cities is definitely going to diminish, and the way we work. Hence, I don't think we can genuinely, we can speculate, but we just know that this is the direction it's taking. So it could be exciting times with lots of opportunities as well. And people may be having a better work-life balance.
You are probably right, and it completely will change the way how we work. And also I see the big skyscrapers being built as a potential office space. But the question is whether the companies will return to these places when they put everything online or most things online. The second question is, do we need in one or another country big airline hub, big airport hub, to build airport hub in the middle of the country? There will be no business flights that much in the future, right? So that might be a very, very bad investment. Well, if you take into account what happened in Berlin, for example. I have also here, I have to tell about this because this is a very, very important question. It's a question about the confidence. And somebody asked that very important questions. Aren't you afraid that with the upcoming changes in the level 1 exam, so going to computer-based testing, there may be a risk of downgrade, which means that the qualification that you get after this exam will be probably lower because it's not being tested in the room, but it's being tested in computer. I don't see many difference. I think that given very much long time of preparation, the preparation for level 1 in computer-based testing started in 2016. So there was a big debate how to do it, etc. And I know that this will be done in such a way that if you come to the computer place, let's say, or computer center, you sit with the computer. The questions, each question will be for different people, and also there will be cameras, etc., etc. So there's no problem of being this easier than in the case of the room in particular. I also think that the most important thing is the passing rate. So the passing level, then the CFA Institute Board of Governors, after exam, they decide about passing level. They say what should be the threshold to pass this, what should be the level. And they look at the not quality, but difficulty of exam. So it could be that in one particular year exam is maybe a little bit easier, and you got, let's say, 60% of points, and you didn't pass it because, you know, the experts say that for these types of questions, the more people should answer this, so maybe 70% or 80%. On the other hand, if the exam will be particularly difficult, they want to make the same level, but sometimes, you know, they make some question, etc. If they want to make it very difficult, then it means that if you have maybe 50% of points, maybe you pass the exam. So it depends on the let's say distribution of the result, and it depends mainly on the quality and difference and difficulty of the particular question. Then experts are being asked how many people should answer this particular question. The more people should answer this question, then the level of the passing level will be higher simply. So I don't think that there will be any doubt in terms of downgrading this because it's easier to pass. It will be easier only in the sense that you have opportunity to pick up the date. This time you didn't have, because you have to do it on the first Saturday in June and December. That's it. No choice. So if something happens, you have, I don't know, you have your wedding, for example, you have to wait another year, right? But this time you can pick up. So there'll be windows, 7-day windows in one of these 4 months, and that's very flexible. Also, I think that it's easier in the sense that there'll be 400 centers rather than 190 centers. I don't think that this will be a big problem. I would like to ask maybe one more question in terms of, there was one question here I should answer immediately, because the question, how many charter holders are in Poland? And we are, I think the people who are registered with us, with CFA Society Poland, who live in Poland and have CFA charters, is about 650, something like this. And each year there are maybe 100 something new charter holders coming. So it became very much progressive in the last several years. That's feeling. So I think it's growing, the community, although some people, they work abroad and they may be belonging to another society. You know, if you work in London, you may be the member of CFA Society London, right? And that's it. If you work in the United States, you may be a member of CFA. They have like 40 different societies or more in US, including different cities. Like in Texas, they have 4 different societies in different places: Dallas, San Antonio, Houston, etc., etc. So that will be the situation. But we are really welcoming not only charter holders, but also people who are interested in this to join our events. Many of our events are, some of them, they are only for charter holders. You can join them, and there will be, if there's enough place, etc., etc. But many of them, including these webinars, you see, these webinars are for free for everybody. So I think, okay, I think we'll slowly moving to the end. But I think I would now like to ask each of the members of the panel for like 2 minutes or maybe 4 minutes, just one last statement for the people who still hesitate whether to go for CFA program because it takes so much time, etc., and you know, uncertainties maybe after, etc. What would you tell in the favor of taking CFA exam and belonging to CFA community? So this is my question to all of you. Who starts? Okay.
Well, I mean, I can
Julia,
start if you like. It's kind of unfair for me to talk about this because I am not a CFA charter holder, but of course I speak to a lot of charter holders. Exactly.
You have so much experience.
And candidates on a day-to-day basis. So I'm sure my fellow panelists will echo this, but there is no question that these are hard exams to pass. And there is simply no shortcut. So yes, you will have to study a lot. Yes, you will probably have to put your social life on hold for a while before the exams. But I think throughout the whole, what I can see from the charter holders and the candidates I speak to, what sustains them during this period of time is really the end goal. Because when you get to the end, and even throughout the journey, like Professor Jajuga said, if you have on your CV that you are a CFA candidate and that you have passed either level 1 or level 2, it really is transformative for your career. And when you get to the end, you have this internationally, globally recognized designation that is really worldwide recognized as the gold standard of our industry. And not only are you set up for pretty much any job in our industry that you want to do, both by the sound foundation of knowledge that you have built, but also by the ethical grounding and the ethical principles that you have acquired over this time, you also enter this amazing community. And I think that is almost one of the biggest selling points, for lack of a better word, for me. You will enter, at the moment we have over 165,000 charter holders worldwide. And so many, as we've said before, so many local member societies such as CFA Society Poland. So not only do you have this designation that will set you up for your career and will accelerate and take your career to the next level, but you also have the network to go with it. And I think especially in these uncertain times that we live in, as we work remotely, as we are not together in one location, our network becomes ever more important. And I think not many people outside of our network can say that they have a network of over 165,000 fellow charter holders in basically any country in the world. So I would say the community is a big, big selling point as well.
Okay, thank you, Julia. Who wants to take next point?
I can be next. Yeah. So really, I mean, Julia said it almost all. I think if you are really serious about career in finance, or not necessarily, but considering that that's one of your options, I think truly I can't think of a better qualification to have. It's also, I think it's been touched upon when you are on the job as well. There are lots of additional exams that sometimes you are required to take, and having the CFA, being a CFA charter holder, you are definitely exempt from certain ones, so it makes your life easier going forward. It definitely looks great on the CV, and as I said, in certain jobs it is really becoming a minimum standard. It is a commitment for sure, but think about it, when I was taking it, you can only do it once a year. So that's changed, so it's making it much easier as well. And you do have to commit a certain amount of time to this, but I would say for level 1, I mean, do it as soon as possible while you are still in the study mode. I think it just makes it much easier. And then you can take level 2 or 3, like as Professor Jajuga said, much later, but that will put you already on a much better standing. Plus you get a feel what it's about. And for the tips as well, because I didn't get the chance to mention that as well, I mean, there's no shortcuts, really, it's practice. And on top of reading the books, I would say really don't wait to do the tests until you read all the books. I would say try doing the tests at the same time or in parallel. It will really make it much more efficient. So, and think about the end goal, for sure, definitely. So, I mean, I know so many people who I was working with, I was surrounded by, and it's always a big recognition when you have that degree, so qualification. So that's from
Okay, thank you, Roxana. Wants to contribute a little bit, maybe? Piotr, job market, or Emil, your experience?
Yes, because if you have CFA certificate, you are lucky, because we headhunters looking for candidates bar certificates too. And if we try to look somebody, for example, in keywords, we push CFA. This is the first reason which is good to have CFA. The second one, what Julia said, CFA accelerate your career on the next level. And the first and the third is that gives you more confidence as professional in financial markets.
Okay, good. Emil?
It's my turn.
Yeah.
Okay. First thing that I want to say, I was studying international trade. So I was not in a finance major. So if anybody is not in the finance but considers being in finance, and it doesn't matter if it's portfolio manager or if it's CFO or controlling or anything else, but concerned with finance, then I think studying for the CFA is really the best thing that you can do. I think it's better, frankly speaking, than going to another studies. It's probably the same length of time, but definitely it's more recognizable and I think more structured and more even sometimes up to date. So really, if you consider being in finance, CFA is a very good way to start. Of course, it's not the end. And I must say something about what Julia said, the T-shape of personality. I fully admit that working in the finance, like for example, I'm working as a portfolio manager for many years. But portfolio manager is different thing in one fund, different thing in another fund. So you have to have the skill to navigate in the market and to be able to grasp different instruments, different markets, different countries, different companies. So your skill to being creative, but also to being able to manage the world that is changing so fast is definitely crucial. So apart from knowing the finance, of course, you should take care of your interperson capabilities. And of course, it would be very good if you can have expertise in something else apart from finance. Like, for example, I was once working for an investment fund, and for example, the knowledge of law was very helpful. So you consider what you want to do in the finance and then try to be, of course, expert in finance, but an expert in something else as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I would like to summarize very briefly and give my point also, maybe two things which I want to mention, or three things. One thing is that for me it's very important that CFA designation creates opportunity to work in the job which is very much robust to automation. I think that there are 2-3 types of qualification, or let's say of jobs, I should say, that are very robust in the period of high automation of jobs. One thing is that these jobs that are very creative, that cannot be replaced by robot, by automat, because there is a creativity, and the creativity definitely with these complicated things is very important, having CFA charter. Second thing is that also the type of job that is directed towards individual situation. I think there is, when you look at these types of jobs that are being taken by charter holders, especially in different countries, you see that it's not necessarily only portfolio manager and research analyst, as was the origin, and especially in the United States where they have a huge market. But in many other countries, the people work as CFOs, chief financial officers, work as consultants, and I see the big opportunity to work as a private wealth managers, independent financial advisors for households, etc. And with these things, you have also the other skills. But if you type in the Google, will computer take my job? And you write different types of jobs, you will see that there are some types of jobs that give you probability of almost 100% that it will be taken by computer and is already taken by computer. But if you look at financial analysts, it's certainly below 20%. So it's not very likely that it will be taken by a computer. So that's one my statement. And two other things at the very end. I would encourage you to contact with our CFA Society Poland. Any type of help, any type of advice, we will be happy to help you. And the very last thing, I should tell you that I was supposed to be today in Atlanta, Georgia. There was a scheduled CFA annual conference. This is once a year, 3 days or 4 days, with the 2,000 people in real room, in big hall, with the distinguished people from finance industry, with Nobel Prize winners, etc., etc. This year, for the first time, the 73rd annual conference, CFA annual conference, takes place virtually. And actually, I just got a message that in 1 hour time, the second day of this conference starts you can still probably register. Yesterday was like 50,000 people registered, probably for yesterday day of the conference. Today there is a day for behavioral issues. So there's very much interdisciplinary. The behavioral issues, they have very important role. You mentioned the skills, interpersonal skills, etc. There will be discussion today. So this is also a sign of changes, that the biggest conference for financial analysts is taking place virtually, not in Atlanta, but just through such type of system as we do have. So I think with these words, I would like to thank very much to our panelists. You had really great statements supporting CFA, of course, program. And I wish all of you very good luck in your future, not only luck, but progress in your job, especially, the things that are going to happen after the main wave of virus will go out. So that we come to reality in the world that is being collapsing in terms of economy by probably double digits in terms of GDP growth rate, minus, of course. So this will minus growth rate for at least 2 quarters or more. And I wish you all success. That probably with CFA Charter will be much easier because of your skills. Thank you very much, and good health. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.